elephant out of control. The yogi's initial task is to slowly put reins on the leaping, erratic thoughts of the mind by using specific tools, the repetition of core beliefs in mantras, and exercises to empty the mind of conceptual thought. Two yogis in retreat in Lapshi agreed to an interview, an unheard-of opportunity.
You have come to Lapchi when I have taken a few days' break in my retreat. This is an auspicious coincidence, and something like this can only happen because of past connections and aspirational prayers. Milarepa went on a very long retreat in Lapchi and reached enlightenment through the practice of Tummo. He left several footprints on the rocks of Lapchi, which attract many pilgrims. The disciples of many important masters have meditated at caves in Lapchi and the surrounding places. I am here on a retreat with permission from His Holiness Chetsang Rinpoche. After many years' retreat, I came to the conclusion that a human being's physical constitution in particular was a big impediment for serious practitioners. I came to realize that the only way to remove these impediments was to attain mastery over the 5 elements, so that my practice did not have to be dependent upon sustenance and health. I read Milarepa's life history. It completely ravished away my mind. I strongly aspired to master the 6 yogas of Naropa, as well as the secret Prana, Nadi, and Bindu, the 3 main components that are important in the practice of yoga. At any cost, I was determined to train myself to be able to master Tummo or Chandali. To do this, I found that Dharamsala was not conducive to the attainment of my aspirations. I needed a teacher who could pour down in me his experiential knowledge of such practices. I wanted the result of my efforts to create and leave an indelible imprint on my mind state that I can forever carry forward. The most difficult thing to do is remain in single-pointed concentration. Bodily efforts, like doing hundreds of thousands of prostrations, and the efforts of speech, like recitation of mantras, are no problem. Controlling the mind is. I started my retreat when I was 9 years old. During that time, I went on a 1-month-long retreat. At first, it was very difficult for me. I was a little boy. I would count the days on my fingers, say 1 day is gone, 2 days gone, how many balance remaining? Should I go out of the retreat place? If I do, what would be the consequences? These kind of questions keep on popping up. And then, although verbally you are reciting the mantra, but your mind is really, really busy on trying to get out of the retreat place. But when you become more seasoned and more mature in your meditation and learning, things will change.
What I would like about the retreat is when you go to retreat, and many weeks or many months being alone is very different. You will all satisfy our desire, anger, attachment.
At the age of 17, I entered monastery. Now from that day onwards to this day, I worked for the monastery for 2 years. Aside from that, I have devoted all my times ever since the age of 17 on retreats and meditation.
There's no such thing as sleep when we are in a retreat. And there is a particular box made, and we sit cross-legged in there. And we sit in that position whether it is day or night. We can break up our practice into 4 slots of time, and during that time we may rest, but we will not get out of the box. We will continue sitting in that position all the time. Whoever wants to go on a retreat, whether that person is nun, monk, or lay person, all are welcome. The dispensation of Dharma teaching is like the sun's rays. It is for everyone to enjoy. The job of a retreat master is to guide all of those who are on retreat, giving commentary on the teachings relating to the particular retreat that one is on. How many sessions a retreat person has to do in the course of a day, what kind of visualization, what method of meditation, how one should do the mantra recitation, what are the graduated paths to this particular practice. So these are the kinds of things a retreat master will guide those who are on retreat. Once you come out of the retreat after 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, you are a different person.
If one is a different person after 3 years in retreat, the effect is exponential for those who have devoted decades to retreat. Indeed, the most profound evidence of the mind-altering effects of prolonged retreat are to be found in the oldest practitioners. Yet many of these elders have been imprisoned or killed in a half-century of Chinese occupation. Perhaps the oldest living Tibetan yogi is Drulong Rinpoche, possibly the most revered yogi alive today. Here, for the first time, he grants a filmed interview, a rare glimpse into the mind of a meditation master.
Now I have meditated for a very, very long time. It is very difficult for me to exactly reflect back and count the years that I have meditated. The reason for this is because although I do appear like a human person outwardly, my mental state is so different. Different in the sense that my focus on mundane things is not consistent. When one meditates, from the very day when one decides to go on solitary retreat, one has made a conscious decision to endure all kinds of losses: good clothing, good food, name, fame, and prestige. All these things one must be ready to forego and give up. We are rationed the barest minimum amount of water and roasted barley flour for our sustenance, so that we may be able to sit in a meditation posture. Only once in a week we would have the smallest possible amount of food for our sustenance. You have to persistently make a consistent effort and undergo all kinds of hardship. Without undergoing hardship, one would not be able to experience the mental state of all the glorious past masters. When I meditate, I can see all my former lives. I have been born in the realm of hell. I have been born as a hungry ghost. I have been born many times as animals. All these things become very, very clear when one is in meditation. I've gone through the 3 lower realms of existence many times. In my meditative absorption, I always go through the pardo or intermediate gap, which is to say, between death and rebirth. But there isn't a great deal of point going into these. When one understands this life and the life after as one, to such a person there's no need to go into these nitty-gritty things. When one's body is already dismantled in one's meditation, there's no question of death or discarding one's physical body.
The disciplined mind, then, becomes a powerful tool in its own right, enabling the practitioner to become aware of the subtle energies of the body, then master them through the breathing and physical postures known as yogas. Modern Western medicine has documented the mental powers of these meditation masters. One such practice, Tumo, was developed for generating body heat in the icy caves of Tibet. Yogis who have mastered Tumo are capable of immersing themselves in icy lakes and, 15 minutes later, producing visible steam rising from their robes.
Tomo is a teaching that is strict and not one that is freely dispensed to whoever wishes to receive it. However, our environment and the time are very different now. So, backed by loving kindness and compassion, I'm now showing it. And to me, it's not a violation of our yogic vows. Tomo is a practice that will bring about bliss and happiness, psychological as well as physical. The visualization is a lot simpler. When you visualize yourself as a fully blown up balloon that is hollow, then you visualize a little object inside you glowing and generating heat. It is a very useful tool to help oneself and heal oneself.
Other yogas were designed to benefit bodily health and to improve the length and quality of one's precious lifetime. While many basic yogas have been taught in the West for years, many of the more difficult and exotic yogas have been kept secret to preserve their purity. One such practice, True Core, was developed for opening the wind channels of the body, the pathways of energy associated with breathing. Through the practice of True Core, the yogi is able to improve breathing functions, help the body release toxins, and clear the mind. The filming of this demanding practice was permitted with great reluctance.
In order to learn this thoroughly, it takes at least 2 years. But then you cannot leave it at that. You must do the practice all the time. Unless I'm traveling, I do the exercise 2 hours every day. And now I have one request. This is a very secret practice, so I must ask you to advise the viewer to not try to imitate me. If they do, there is a danger for their health and well-being. Because this is so secret, we must learn it from a particular teacher who can give the teaching from the beginning to the end thoroughly.
The yogi who has spent years practicing and has gained a high degree of mastery over both mind and body is said to have achieved a high level of attainment, to have become a highly realized being. Their powers are sometimes said to extend into the realm of the paranormal. Such supernatural stories have swirled around Tibetan yogis throughout their history, thickening the cloud of mystery surrounding them. Tales of telepathic communication and mind-controlling matter are reported among advanced practitioners to this day.
The highly realized yogis can, of course, alter situations. There are many instances where the highly realized beings altered natural disasters. One example is where Chinese soldiers came to cause harm to a monastery or its inhabitants. All of a sudden, the change of weather, extreme poor visibility, the falling of hail, making it absolutely impossible for these people to come to their destination. There are so many different instances, far too many to narrate. There is a most wonderful and sacred meditation cave where it is said Guru Padma Sambhava meditated. I went there when I was only a boy, but I had a tremendous amount of devotion. When looking across the cave, I really felt like saying some prayers. I offered 3 prostrations and said, "Please show me some sign so that my devotions will further become stronger." And instantly there appeared a rainbow at the mouth of the meditation cave. And there I saw Guru Padma Sambhava. So I was just overwhelmed and really so very happy. And all my focus was on the mouth of the cave and Guru Padma Sambhava. There were a lot of nuns with me, and one of them said to me, "Rinpoche, Rinpoche, watch your foot. It is sinking in the stone." And I had to look, and there was my foot, making an imprint in solid rock, because it was really, just as the nun said, it was sinking. At the age of 3, I was able to tell my previous lives. I was able to name my former sister. But now suppose I told you that I can remember all my former lives, is anyone going to believe me? Therefore, just let's say that I was able to remember when I was a little boy.
Such paranormal powers among master yogis are thought to include the ability to self-govern the process of transition from one life to the next.
This is very often you can see in many good practitioners. Most of the people die. After die, you can change your face, the yellow hair, and when you do the pinch in your skin, also they will stay there. But the real practitioner who has when the passing and the meditation state, they continue their stay. They pinching here, just also like now, and they immediately going like this. And also they have to be heat and warm and hot, and also the face is like the light, and very unusual one, and happened. My story is just 1 year ago, in Bhutan, one of Master Ginjun Rinchen. So he stayed more than 1 month, and they never changed.
For aspiring yogis, events such as these imply control over the process of reincarnation. Shupon Samten recalls vividly one such event in his early years as a student, the death of his own teacher, Temgor Rinpoche.
This is my teacher, Temgor Rinpoche. He invited all the students. He told he's going to pass away. No illness, nothing sign of death, nothing. He just normally get up, do his prayer, and he told his attendant to make a good tea And then he make it tea over and over and until he's satisfied. And he says, all this pair together. And when I get to the completion state, he says, this is the time for me to pass away. And just like a falling asleep, like a Buddha, just he put his right hand under his cheek and then lie down and look at each person. He's doing prayer for each person to benefit in the future. Then he passed away.
Telling stories such as these, indeed revealing any technique, tradition, or experience to someone who has not completed yogic training, was once a violation of yogic vows to extreme secrecy. The reason was to maintain the purity of the teachings. The fear was that, taken out of context, exotic forms of yoga and meditation might degenerate into ego-centered showmanship. And in the eyes of the elders, the opening up that is taking place now is seen as a significant risk. When His Eminence Drewang Rinpoche was asked about the cutting of his hair, a practice known to signify that a yogi is preparing to die, he displayed the stubborn elusiveness of a yogi under strict vow.
There are many reasons why a person in retreat would grow hair. Let me think about it. Yeah, there are many reasons why one would grow one's hair long. Let's just forget about it, shall we? A good number of things happened to me. It will just boil down to misleading people. Forget it. I just cut it because I am old, and the hair was really hefty and weighing me down. That's why I chopped it off. I had pledged not to mislead people. Now, if I told you a whole lot of tall tales, that will amount to misleading the audience. I have absolutely nothing whatsoever, and I have nothing to tell you. This is the first time I have been asked to tell about these things. We are not supposed to reveal the ins and outs of what goes on inside a meditation cave. If we do, then there will be consequences. The past masters, including Tilopa, have categorically said there was never an instance where he revealed the secrets of meditation. We who follow in their footsteps must do the same.
Although it is known that Drewang Rinpoche did cut his hair in preparation for death, His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked him to live a little longer to help pass on and preserve Tibetan teachings. It is said that His Eminence agreed to do so, and has decided to live until the age of 100 to help his people. Beyond feats of mental, physical, or even supernatural control, perhaps the most impressive accomplishment of the Tibetan yogis is maintaining a stance of compassion and peace through a half-century of persecution. The teachings of loving your enemies and praying for those who persecute you are familiar in the West, but are, few would argue, among the hardest to practice. Skeptics may well point out that feelings of love and peace may be easily generated when you are by yourself in a cave, but not when you're coping with the human conflict inherent in real life. Yet, the claims of the Tibetan yogis have been put to the extreme test in the Chinese Holocaust. How does one retain compassion in the face of raw cruelty?
Now the Buddhism is developed in the West, so we have centers from South America, from Chile to North America, to Canada, and we also have Baltic countries, to in Central Asia. There may be 40 centers more than. So we have to also properly guide the Buddha's teaching.
It is in one way, a very difficult situation in Tibet today, and it's been that way for many years. But from that, we have so many wonderful teachers and examples that have come to the United States, Europe, and different countries to make Buddhism available to us.
One day His Holiness the Dalai Lama called me down and said, well, this is time now. It is time for you to actually come out of retreat. And now your time has come to benefit all beings. Listening to that advice, I ended my retreat. And from that day onwards, to this day, I have visited so many countries, and I have taught so many countless number of people. And it was absolutely as His Holiness said, I benefited so many people, and I keep on going strong. Now, since I came to the United States, it has gone 5 years. The job of all Dharma practitioners is to help other beings. In countries like India and Nepal, there are many lamas, and teachings are readily available to the population. And this case does not apply in the United States and other Western countries. The main point of the teachings is the generation of loving kindness and compassion. And I hope to help people in the United States and teach them loving kindness and compassion.
Arizona has become home to one such center, a growing facility where Tibetan yogi Garchen Rinpoche guides the teachings. Now, where the adobe dwellings of Native Americans once stood, clusters of retreat huts, temples, and teaching rooms hug the rugged terrain of the Chino Valley. In them gather people from all walks of Western life, from many faith traditions, there to learn what wisdom this ancient people might have for a weary modern society.
Well, I think the general society now has so many influences which are rather superficial in nature. And even though we theoretically have a lot of extra time, more and more I think people are finding that the different distractions and things that they do are not particularly meaningful to them. And so they're searching for something else to give their life meaning.
Here we saw all the technology, we see all the rich people, we have all the money, we can, whatever you want, the food, Chinese, all these different you can get. But then people find out that having material, having technology is really not answer your inner question and not fulfill your ultimate goal. And therefore, they have this kind of spirituality. I would say human society that has love and compassion is the only way to bring peace and happiness.
Garchen Rinpoche teaches patience a lot. Like, your worst enemies are your greatest teachers because they teach you patience. They teach you definite patience. And during school and when I'm at home, like, I have a 2-year-old little next door neighbor and he just gets on my nerves all the time, and so it's like it gives me a lot of patience to practice. If I have a bad day, it makes me think about my bad day, reflect on my bad day, and there's a part that you should do every night. Like, you think of 2 things that you did bad in that day and try to fix them the next day, and then you think of 2 things that you did good that day and you try to do them the next day as well.
I think it's very bad, it's very sad that we're losing yogis and we're losing someone who can connect us with our own enlightened nature. And from other point, those realized masters that comes here and comes to other countries can teach other people, and it was not possible before. And even there are so many people who even would not think about Buddhism until they would meet realized master.
Just looking at our lamas that we have, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and many wonderful Western lamas, when you look at them, you get some true feeling that they really have some kind of inner peace. And if we could receive those teachings from the yogis and put them into practice in our own lives, that is the way to save. That is the only way to save the lineage of the Tibetan yogis. And that's the most important thing to do, I think. Yeah.
The lamas who have come to the West are still adapting to the pathways and parameters of this new life. And their questions remain. Will the filming and sharing of techniques lead to abuses? Will self-styled lamas and bogus practitioners exploit Western interest in Tibetan Buddhism and mislead people? Is the form of their faith destined to dissolve in the ways of the West? The devotees of the Dharma hold that even if the tradition of the yogis and other outward expressions of Tibetan Buddhism die out completely, the teachings of the Buddha will survive.
Because of the Chinese occupation, it is extremely difficult to have the